Welcome back to TribPreps. I'm Eric Lee alongside Todd Sommerfeldt, and here to wrap up one of the final weeks of the regular season high school football here in Wisconsin. We'll run through the scores. We'll dive into our games. You guys know the drill. We'll touch on some other games as well. I was at Onalaska River Falls. River Falls picked up the win there. They stay undefeated in the MVC, 36-27 over Anna. You were at Holman Logan.
Yes, and Logan gets the win there in overtime, 25-22.
Yeah, game-winning field goal there.
Robert field goal.
It sounded like kind of a crazy just finish to that game in general.
Yeah.
We'll dive more into that. Aquinas stays unbeaten with a 32-15 win over Prescott. Central over Sparta, 39-6. West Salem over Toma, 53-6. And the Cooley Arcadia over GET, 38-0. Westby over Altoona, 36-20. Black River Falls, 40. Viroqua, 22. Bangor bounces back, 37-7 over Brookwood. Luther, though, unable to keep up its momentum without Dylan Yang tonight. The Knights fall in the seat at 34-20. Melmin over Independence Gilmanton, 19-0. Blair Taylor falling to Pepin Alma, 37-8. DeSoto, shut out by Ithaca, 35-0. Caledonia bounces back, 15-0 over Rochester Lords. La Crescent still looking for its first win. They fall to Cannon Falls, 54-12, and Prairie Sheen with a 23-12 win over Dodgeville this evening. I think we got to start with yours. I feel like.
Okay.
It's a big win for the Rangers. It makes things a lot more difficult for Holman when we're talking about the playoff picture. And like I said, it sounded like an interesting end to that.
Yeah,
one.
It puts both teams in the same boat, in that they have to win next week to have a chance at the playoffs. Neither of them can guarantee their fate yet. So next week we'll have Logan playing Central and Holman playing West Salem, and they have to win to have a chance. Definitely makes Holman's path a lot harder to navigate at this point. But Daniil Roberts' 20-yard field goal tonight in overtime, it was an interesting game. And I hate to keep saying it, but it's always going to keep coming back, and it has every week, back to turnovers for Holman. The Vikings couldn't hold on to the ball. They fumbled it away a couple of times. They muffed a punt. There was an onside kick that they couldn't handle.
Man.
Just, anytime something like that comes up, it doesn't go their way and they lose the ball. But there were some plays that, of course, they want back from this one. One being a fumble that they lost in the fourth quarter that allowed Logan to take possession and go down and tie the game in the final minute of regulation. They were, up a touchdown. They had scored a couple of times in a row. Hayden Goodell had a nice interception on the sideline, returned it for a touchdown to put him in front. Then they had a nice drive to extend that lead. I think that was, LeClaire scored the first one. Braden Graw, I think, scored that one to put them up 22-14. So they have the 8-point lead. They get the ball. They get about the Logan 30-yard line, fumble.
Man.
Rangers on it, about 5 minutes left. And they eat the rest of the clock. Well, not the rest of the clock, but they get down.
Enough, right, yeah.
Yeah, Martell Owens in from the one with about 47 seconds left. And Holman, put together a quick scramble at the end of regulation there to get, I think they got to about 35 or the 30.
Okay.
But that was the closest they could get. They ran out of time there. I think they got to the 30 with 3 seconds left, and they're too far away to kick at that point, so they just kind of had to try to throw it, and it didn't work. They get the ball first in overtime, get stopped a yard short, and then Logan. They actually made a couple of good defensive plays when Logan got the ball.
Okay.
They had a sack. Josh Wade had to leave the game due to cramping issues, so Johnny Lever came in to quarterback, and they sacked him right away. And then he dropped back on the next play. I think that made it 3rd and 14. So it looked like we were going to a second overtime.
Right.
He drops back to throw a ball, and he just kind of lofts one up there. You see a receiver and defender both go up. The ball gets tipped in the air and gets hauled down by a Logan freshman at about the 9-yard line. that gives them life. So, and that was Jacob Hackbarth, by the way. Who I was trying to think of the name. Jacob Hackbarth pulls down that pass at the 9-yard line and keeps things going. And they got down to the 1, had a penalty, ball moved around a little bit, ended up at the 3 on 4th down, and Roberts came in and kicked it. So it was his first field goal attempt this season. Last time he tried one, it got blocked, so he had to get kind of past that.
Right.
Obviously he did, and it was a nice snap, nice hold, nice kick. So the Rangers win one that I don't know a lot of people thought would happen. Even though there are similar records, I think people still thought that Holman was the team to beat in this one. And Logan beat it, and Holman helped along the way by beating itself.
Sure. And that, like you said, I mean, it sets up an interesting art game, especially when you consider last year's as well, because nobody thought going into that we would see Logan beat Central there. But I mean, maybe now this gives a little bit more pause maybe on some of that.
Yeah, I think on one hand you still have a Central team that's playing really well and comes in with the upper hand, but Logan, after getting that one tonight, they're talking after the game, and they announced on the field, Arc stays here.
Yeah.
And they surprised Central last year. They're not going to surprise them again, but maybe they can go out there and play with them.
Right.
It's when you look at the sideline and just see the lack of kids. I mean, the numbers are down, but they still had enough in it to beat Holman, which has 100 kids for football. So they can beat Holman. They can go out there and give it a shot against Central. You got a little more motivation there too, with it being the city game and for the Arc. So look forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
And yours, we had Onalaska hung with River Falls for a while.
They were up 14-13 at half. The problem was that Onalaska couldn't move the ball on the ground at all. They had 21 total yards on the ground on 20 carries for the game.
And that's something they've gotten better at in recent weeks too. So,
Correct. And it hasn't just been like one person, right? Either when we're talking about that rushing attack getting better, it's been, Brady Kuhn, it's been Aiden Larson, it's, they've been able to spread the wealth there, and they just weren't able to get anything tonight at all. I think it's more credit to River Falls in that front seven than it is a detriment to the offensive line, though. I mean, obviously they still felt like they should have been able to move the ball. So come second half, when they're not able to move the ball, I mean, their first 2 possessions were 3 and outs that ate up like 2.5 minutes combined off the clock, and River Falls puts together 2 scoring drives. So the defense is out there for such a long time to start the second half, and those 2 scores give River Falls a 22-14 lead, and looked like they started to get a little bit of momentum. First down, and then it looked like they had picked up a 3rd and 11 on a pass from Larson to Skemp, who Skemp had a fantastic night tonight. He had 9 catches for 177 and a touchdown.
It's a good night.
On the sideline, but he got called back for a holding. And that drive stalls and they punt, and River Falls scores again because the defense they're just so worn down at that point that they were able to bottle up the run in the first half. I mean, River Falls was able to throw on them in the first half, but they were able to bottle up the run, which, like we talked about last week against West Salem, River Falls was running all over West Salem. We were like, what's going on here? But they had 41 rushing yards in the first half tonight against Onalaska. But as a defense started to wear down, the runs started getting longer and longer and longer.
And I think once they were able to push that lead to more than a touchdown, that probably was gonna.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean they only threw the ball River Falls only threw the ball 6 times in the second half, so it was very clearly like once they got that lead, that's what they wanted to do. Onalaska was able to get back in it late in the 4th quarter. Granted, River Falls was playing a little bit more lax with their coverage, right? Just, no big plays, no quick scores, that kind of stuff. But Larson orchestrates a scoring drive, capped with a nice pass to Skimp on a fourth. It was 4th and goal from actually the 14 because of a holding call. Penalties were another theme tonight, kind of just. And
I think my game had 180 or 170.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
A lot of 15-yarders tonight.
But yeah, so they score and they get within 29-21 late in the 4th quarter. So they try to onside kick. They don't get it, and River Falls got the ball on the 50, and on first down, Aiden Larson makes a nice play, like right at the line of scrimmage, and it's like, okay, well, this is a nice, I mean, this is exactly what you need in that position, and the defense hadn't really shown that much in the second half because again they're just so tired, and even Yash after the game was like, I can't fault the defense at all because it's the offense's fault that they weren't they were on the field so much. But the next 2 runs are runs of 32 and 18 for a touchdown, and that was pretty much it. I mean, Anna had to score late, like 17 seconds left on a touchdown pass to Nick Odom, but I mean, they don't get the onside then, and they kneel. River Falls kneels out the game. But
for Anna, you already have the 3rd win. You're going to get the 4th next week.
Yep.
They play Toma, close out with Toma, and you get that 4th win, you're in. So weren't able to knock off River Falls, but they're still looking at least a playoff game coming.
Yeah, and they played really. I mean, in the first half they played them really well. And River Falls, like I said, able to move the ball through the air, but Anna was able to too. Larson finished with almost 300 passing yards. Granted, a lot of those came in those final 2 possessions, right? But River Falls tried to play man-to-man in the first half with their coverages, and Michael Skimp just ate them up. And they switched to zone in the second half, and he didn't have a catch until the 4th quarter. So as something that I thought was interesting. But I mean, they were able to hang with them. They're the only team like in the NBC so far that's played them to, single digits to 1 score. And Yash made note of that after the game too. And they were in it. I mean, if the defense just could have got 1-2 stops in the second half, I mean, this could have easily gone the other way. But I mean, if your offense isn't picking up first downs, then
exactly,
it just makes it a little bit tougher on your defense. So hopefully, like you said, they'll be able to get back on track next week, and I'm sure the offensive line will be plenty motivated against Toma. Aquinas, Jackson Flottmeyer threw 2 picks tonight, but it didn't matter.
2 touchdowns.
He threw 2 touchdowns. He was 9-17 for 166. Colin Gonzalez returned another kickoff for a touchdown. Man, the kid's fast. I mean, we obviously didn't see that game, but man, the kid is fast. But
and it was the opening kickoff, so that's how they got. So you get that right off the bat. You're playing with the lead. So that helps you move forward.
And I mean, this was the game that we were kind of like, this will give them a nice little playoff prep, if you will.
And I think it did.
And it seemed that I agree, but it seemed like they handled it fairly well.
Yeah, and I talked to Tom Lee after the game. He said that they thought Prescott was coming at Flottmeyer, and Prescott came at Flottmeyer. That's how they got the couple of picks that they got. He said they were able to run the ball enough. And I think Pinky had a touchdown run in there for him. But he said they ran it enough. They took advantage of some short fields. He said one of the big things he said was holding Prescott to a field goal at the end of the first half.
Okay.
And then they came out and got a couple defensive stops and scored. So quickly it goes from 16-9 to 32-9, and they're able to kind of withstand the rest at that point.
Right.
So, but they expected a challenge. They got one, and they stood up to it.
Sure. Central now has a playoff spot secured for sure with their win over Sparta. looks like solid nights from Ethan Shepard and Herlitzky.
Yeah, Hurlitsky had a couple of touchdown passes, touchdown run in that game. Shepard had 148 rushing yards, I think it was.
Yep.
For there, so they spread the ball around, and when they got near the end zone, it looked like, but a good performance there going into the arc, I think, for the Riverhawks.
Yep. West Salem back to doing West Salem type things.
Yep.
Running the ball, passing when they need to, and playing really good defense.
Another good game for Brett McConkey, it appears.
Yep. Threw for 98 and rushed for 84.
Had a 43-yard touchdown run in there. So.
Yep. Brennan Kennedy, he is.
Yep. You're amazed by him every week.
I'm amazed by him every week because I saw him legitimately, and I talked about this after that game about just how it was a scary moment in that Sparta game because he was stretched off the field, taken away in an ambulance, and he's playing. He was playing the next week. Tonight he returned an interception for a score. Yeah. So yes, I am amazed, and will continue to be amazed by Brennan Kennedy.
Must be locked up playoff spot tonight.
Yeah.
Arcadia taking care of business against GT.
Yeah, Caden Updike 14 of 14 passing.
Yeah.
For 167 and 3 touchdowns. Their only loss, Arcadia's, remains Aquinas. So good stuff for those two Cooley teams. Bangor looks like they were without Tanner Jones again tonight, which.
And not a big night from Austerley.
Not a big night from Austerley. But I imagine that's who they're going to have to lean on.
Yes.
Going forward. Presumably then Jones's MRI probably did not come back super great if he wasn't playing tonight. So it'll be interesting to see what they try to do moving forward because like we talked about last week, they have really relied on that 1-2 punch. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of handle making Austerley, the feature back, or if somebody else, kind of fills that void a little bit, or even how, opponents react to, Jones being out.
And we're back to a state of normal with Bangor and Caledonia winning tonight.
Yep, and that Cashin won last night too, so that's going to be an interesting.
That sets up the Bangor Cashin game for next week.
Yep, that'll be a good one, we imagine.
Elman just keeps winning.
Yeah, that's 4 in a row.
So
4 in a row for them.
Defense there,
and 3 in a row for PDC too.
Yeah.
Good, nice night running the ball from Ty Wagner and Rhett Koenig.
What did Koenig end up with tonight?
20 for 138 and a touchdown.
He hasn't had like a huge game in a while, so good to see him get going.
Yeah, Wagner had 13 for 111 and 2 touchdowns, both of which came in the second quarter. And kind of sealed, or I don't know, sealed is the wrong word because it's the second quarter, but that put him ahead for good, and Koenig added a touchdown in the third.
Okay.
So
good for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, good for the Blackhawks.
So get ready for week 9 now.
Yeah.
And then we start talking playoff football. So
yeah,
it's an exciting week.
Yeah, and we've got some teams that have plenty of talent, so it'll be interesting to see how deep of runs some of these teams can make.
Yeah.
But I think that wraps it up for us this week. As always, you can find all of our stuff on our website, lacrossetribune.com. Videos like these on our YouTube channel, to which you can subscribe and get notifications about when new videos are posted. Not only videos like these, but highlight videos from the games we go to. So do that. Check out our website for stories, photos, videos, roundups, everything. But we'll see you hopefully next week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Thanks.